Well, Trump and Elon have said enough is enough. Things have gone too far, and they are about to lay down the law big time. Not only has Elon's Tesla dealerships been attacked by anti-Trump protesters, but a conservative influencer today, a big one, on X, who has 1.3 million followers on X, was just swatted today. But not only him, his sister and his dad's house, because there was somebody that called in and said that there was like a hostage situation going on. And what this is doing is it's bringing in law enforcement. People don't know what's going on. There's people get that trigger happy or trigger like accidentally hitting, it happens. And things are getting too serious, like it's too much. Last week, one of the top journalists from InfoWars, a part of the Alex Jones team, was killed. And people are being targeted like big time when it comes to being on the MAGA side. And it's now where people that are still in government are still going after conservative voices. This is getting way out of hand, and Trump and Elon has said enough is enough, and they are now going to be starting a new thing to go through these agencies and protect these, especially these big conservative voices. We also have it where Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer has caved to Trump's agenda, Trump's plan, and says he will vote to keep the government open, warning that a shutdown has worse consequences for Americans and would only empower President Donald Trump and Elon Musk further. Well, thank you, Chuck Schumer, for getting on board. We also have where President Trump's plan to waive all taxes for Americans earning under $150,000 per year will take effect after he balances the budget, according to the Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick. This is seeming to be coming into play in the year 2027. What's going to be happening in 2027, guys? Midterms. Imagine going into midterms and Trump looks at everybody in the United States and said, guess what? You don't have to pay federal taxes anymore. That's 92% of all the taxpayers in America. Big win for Trump. We also have an Obama-appointed federal judge has ordered Elon Musk and the Department of Government Efficiency, Doge, to reveal its plans to downsize the government and to identify all of its employees. They're trying to dox them. They want to know exactly who they are, where they live, and all that. And it's getting, again, we cannot trust these people. I hate to say that, guys, but we're at a point now with the government where you have conservative voices that are being targeted. You have people that are losing their life. And when it comes to the people that are doing the very thing that all these deep staters don't want them to do, we need to be protecting them. They need to have, I'm being serious with this, Secret Service security, because these people, you're messing with their money. And when you mess with their money, we know what happens. People get crazy. But we have some good news because at least some people are getting fired. The Trump administration removes top IRS attorney who prevented Doge from gaining access in the first place. They're gone. And it's about dang time. We need transparency. I want to say we got a ton of breaking news tonight, guys. Thank you to everybody who's watching, to all of our subscribers. I want to say thank you so much for your support. If you're not subscribed, consider joining our family, guys. We appreciate you so much. I want to say thank you to everybody that is a member and who gives a super chat donation. We're so grateful for your support. And if you don't mind hitting that thumbs up like button, guys, we really appreciate your support so much because, guys, y'all are the rock stars. You make this thing come alive. Thank you to everybody that is supporting us through purchasing a TrueLifeNews t-shirt. Remember, these are premium shirts, guys. These are, I found the best materials that we could get, and we're super excited about this launch and this pre-order that's going to end Sunday at 12 a.m. But I want to say thank you to everybody who's supporting us, guys. We're getting deep into some stuff, and we're finally getting some news of who is controlling the Democratic Party. And guys, I'm telling you, you will be surprised. Check this out.
Controlling the Democrats. Well, we think we figured it out, and it's not who they are saying it is.
To the point just made about how Bernie Sanders is still out there drawing big crowds in a number of locations. You know, he is sort of at the moment with a couple of others Senator Murphy's been out there quite a bit from Connecticut, sort of becoming the face of the resistance, if such a thing exists. And that's my question to you. Do Democrats need a face of the resistance? Or is it okay right now that we're hearing a little bit from Jeffries, a little bit from Schumer, a little bit from Senator Sanders and the like? Or should they be coalescing around just a couple of key figures?
And none of those people are actually running it. Bernie isn't running anything. They just want you to look over here at Bernie, shiny, shiny, while the real puppet masters go to work. Thanks to a new FOIA request filed against Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro. Remember, that's the guy who was signing bombs with Zelensky during the Democrats' campaign season. The Government Accountability Oversight Group just found out about a 126-page resistance playbook that apparently all Democrat governors got. A bunch of liberal groups and former Democrat staffers are involved in this. But the main one, the Governors Action Alliance, which founded another subgroup called Governors Safeguarding Democracy with Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker and Colorado Governor Jared Polis as the co-chairs. Now, they're not actually the ones running the show. Neither of them have any idea what they're doing. But they have them as the figureheads of a group within another group to further keep you from knowing who is actually in charge of the Democrat Party.
Guys, we're literally, this is breaking news, guys. There is a 126-page resistance playbook that every Democrat governor has got and is using in their state to try to fight against Trump. Treasonous, they need to be held accountable.
Because Democrats prefer to put unelected people in charge of their party, like this woman, Julia Spiegel. Ever heard of her? Yeah, me neither. And Democrats hope to keep it that way. Remember her name, though. She is the CEO of Governors Action Alliance. Her assistant, Emma Clow, at her direction, according to the FOIA emails cited in the Daily Signal, recently sent out this email. Please join for a briefing on executive action governors can take and protect sensitive data and prepare for potential National Guard deployments.
What the heck?
Sensitive data? National Guard deployments? Say what? In that briefing, governors were apparently directed to sign a pre-drafted executive order that said, quote, no assistance to deployments over objection of the office of the governor, and that state personnel shall provide no time, money, facilities, property, equipment, personnel, or other resources for purposes of assistance to any National Guard unit of any other state that is deployed to the state. If the officer of the governor of this state, which was a fill-in-the-blank thing right there, has objected to such deployment. Basically, you're on your own and don't listen to the federal government. Like, who drafted that? More unelected people with special interests in their core platform issues like abortion, child sex changes, and lack of cooperation with federal immigration officers. Basically, these orders that are going out that governors are signing basically say, don't help Trump with anything, even though 70% of America wants illegals who commit crimes out of here. And close to 80% of people want you to stop transing the kids. Nope, they don't care. Because the woman who was the former legal counsel to Gavin Newsom says so. Forget the fact that 77 million people who voted for Trump. Forget the federal laws or the fact that these issues are not supported by even the majority of some of the Democrat states. The irony here is while Gavin Newsom is starting a podcast and running to the center on pretty much every single issue in preparation for a 2028 run, his former legal, don't believe any of that garbage. He does not go into the middle because his former legal advisor, a confidant of his, is out there telling governors to prepare to activate their National Guard against Trump while drafting executive orders for them to sign as part of a coordinated agenda. Okay. This gets better. In an apparent email on December 3rd, the same woman, Julia Spiegel, allegedly assured governors' offices, quote, staff assistance, and that the American Civil Liberties Union national support staff would be available to help them in any legal matter should they need to. You know, like suing Trump. These are the same people screaming that, oh, Elon wasn't elected, even though he was appointed and he was on the campaign trail. People knew what they were getting. And yet those same elected Democrats seem to be controlled by and told what to say by private citizens that were never elected and nobody knows about.
Guys, if this doesn't make you furious that there is literally a resistance, like this to me sounds more like an insurrection type coup than January 6th. Because this is not some random people that are going to the Capitol with flags. This is elected officials. that are sending official documents to each other saying, hey, we may need to use your National Guard if things get crazy with Trump. We may need to use your resources if something happens. Like this, to me, guys, is what needs to be put all over the news. They need to be put before Congress and answered to the American people, because this type of stuff is to me the most treasonous that you can get. Let me know your thoughts, and if you don't mind hitting that thumbs up like button, guys. Thank you so much, Teresa Weber, for the super chat. Cabinets get more control if government shut down. We learned that before election. LOL. Let's go. Y'all show Teresa some love in the chat, as well as Celestino Marina. Y'all show Celestino some love in the chat, everybody. Let's go. Guys, this is bombshell news, and I love it because, again, somebody has to bring the truth.
Propped up by dark money, some of which is coming from people who aren't even citizens of this country. Some of them don't even live in this country, while they rail against dark money in politics. I mean, like, I feel like I'm living in the upside down. And a lot of these organizations are linking back to Act Blue. Don't believe me? Go to the website, see for yourself, all these groups. The Act Blue was the ones that we told you about months ago, taking all kinds of donations in other people's names, mostly senior citizens, for more money than any of these people have because they were all in low income bracket. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars for somebody who makes like 40 grand a year. Now, ironically, some of those stopped right after Trump cut off the USAID money too. Weird, huh? And we all saw that commercial that went out the other day. This one, where all the Democrats, they're all saying the exact same.
Hold up. You mean USAID was funding Act Blue using people on Social Security to give the Democrats money? Please, somebody, please find, I would hope that somebody finds the paper trail and puts these dang people in jail.
Like down to the letter, there was no deviation from any of them whatsoever. What did they think? We weren't going to find out? And today, there was another tweet where all the Democrats said the exact same. I mean, look at this. It's all the exact same. They just cut, copy, pasted it. And Democrats plagiarize. That's what they do. But this has been going on for months. And who knows how many of these directives have been going out? Who knows who they've been going to? But one of the people that we do know of that is controlling some of these talking points, people like Allegra Chapman, the former Assistant Attorney General in New York. She's the managing director for Governors Safeguarding Democracy. Remember I told you about them? Now, according to the same reports, she issued talking points like this, quote, sending this out to basically every governor that's a Democrat. Trump Republican immigration extremism is targeting trusted members of our communities. The chaos is tearing families apart. And it went out to the masses. And everyone fell in line. There's a slew of these people working for this group, by the way, all getting paid like hefty salaries and writing agendas for the elected officials. Emily Kirby, former general counsel in North Carolina's Democrat governor. She works for the same organization. Kristen Ford, who was the deputy communications director for Kamala Harris when she was attorney general. She's in the same group too. And while the talking points and the pre-drafted executive orders keep all the Democrat governors on the same page over here, over there comes in Norm Eisen. And probably like a dozen other Democrat shills who all work for him. Now, Norm Eisen, if you haven't heard this name, was the former White House ethics czar under Barack Obama, founder of State Democracy Defenders Fund, which is a tax-deductible nonprofit, mind you.
Wow.
Whose group has been the architect of more than 100 lawsuits against Donald Trump's administration just this year, with funding ties from anyone like George Soros, Bill Gates, and the Brookings Institute, which a lot of that money is routed through. He's a fellow over there. Yep.
Guys, do you see this? Like, it's so clear to me. They used USAID to fund Act Blue, to fund all these nonprofits in order to control everything within the United States. This is the biggest, I mean, guys, Act Blue is probably one of the biggest scandals ever. Biden's presidency, one of the biggest scandals ever. The auto pen, it should be auto pen gate. One of the biggest scandals ever. We are literally, I pray to God that Bondi, Patel, Bongino get in there, figure this out, and just expose all of this. The Epstein files, JFK files, Diddy files, everything. Because what you're seeing on the screen now, guys, this is serious. And this could be life-threatening to certain voices. Gunther Eagleman is a very prominent 1.3 million followers on X, MAGA Voice. And SWAT was called on his in his house, on his family, his dad, his sister, because there was a hostage situation going on. Well, nothing happened, and thank God nothing happened, because you see they come with things drawn, guys. Like this is no small joke. And this has happened to many conservative voices, even Benny Johnson. Tanya Champagne, welcome to the family. Let's go. And thank you so much, Mary Busby, for the super chat. Thank you so much. Y'all show Mary and Tanya some love in the chat. This has gone too far. And I hope that more people get to see this, because if we don't stop this, guys, this craziness of what you're about to even see next, innocent lives are going to be in danger. People that had no intention. Think about it. There's people that are getting their vehicles vandalized that are Teslas. You don't even know their politics. But just because they drive a Tesla, their Teslas are getting vandalized. They're trying to storm Trump Tower. Listen to this.
The left is letting out their radical rage by torching Teslas and taking over Trump Tower. The NYPD arresting nearly 100 anti-Israel protesters who stormed the lobby of the president's home in New York City, just a few blocks from here, demanding the release of ex-Columbia student and Ivy League protest ringleader Mahmoud Khalil. And that's not the only target. Violent attacks on Tesla dealerships are ramping up as it becomes a proxy for anger at Elon Musk and Doge. President Trump vowing to label the violence as domestic terrorism. But instead of just calling out the anarchy, some folks want to condemn how Trump is cracking down on them.
You're either with the Tesla or you're with the terrorists.
Trump thinks that if you try to kill cops to overthrow the government and change an election, that's not domestic terrorism, but somehow having a protest in front of a Tesla dealership is.
So just to be clear, you protest a private company, you are labeled by this administration a domestic terrorist.
But they loved him before they hated him. Many are pointing out how Musk was once a darling of the media.
Musk, a.k.a. real-life Iron Man.
Elon Musk is doing things that may revolutionize transportation and climate change.
Staggeringly rich and staggeringly intelligent.
Wonderful, out of this world, incredible images from the first all-civilian orbit around Earth. A huge win for Elon Musk.
As a leader in science and technology whose name may indeed belong alongside those of Edison and Jobs.
Here today, Caroline Levitt said that the only reason Democrats changed their minds on Tesla is because Elon Musk changed his mind on Donald Trump. And I think Musk has said similar. He's like, well, they used to love me, not anymore.
Well, the truth is that the left is so full of hate, and they still haven't figured out why they lost the election. And their hypocrisy knows no bounds. Just like we heard, if they love Elon Musk because he's a wonderful person, they will hate him not because of anything that he's done, but because of who he's aligned himself with. And this is classic left over there going into Trump Tower, which certainly is a public area, but they are there trespassing at some point when they're told to leave. They're there obstructing the police and the police's effort to get them out of there. And they're there resisting arrest because they're there because they believe in Mahmoud Khalil. And they want Mahmoud to have all of his constitutional rights, a guy who's been in the country for 2 years, who believes in the takedown of Western civilization and who hates Israel and pretty much hates all of our Western values. Everything they're doing is backwards. It's not making sense. It's not normal. And for them to die on this hill, as opposed to any of the other hills that we would understand, Lake and Riley, men and women sports, little DJ, they figure that Mahmoud Khalil, the guy they're all promoting, who's been here for 2 years from Syria, who pretty much is, cooperating and working with a foreign terrorist organization, is the way to get back into America's heart.
But can you do a quick...
Guys, when have you ever thought in your entire lives that you would have people protesting for terrorist groups like Hamas and people not even say anything wrong about that? Nothing. You don't hear the left-wing media saying anything wrong that, hey, this is a terrorist group. So they're probably right. They're probably wrong. They shouldn't be supporting a terrorist group. That's how far our country has gone, guys. We need to get it back on track. We need to get common sense. And if you appreciate this, guys, if you don't mind hitting that thumbs up like button, thank you so much for your support.
Thing for everybody about the labeling of the attacks at Tesla plants as domestic terrorism. Does that label fit?
Well, you know what? The label does fit, but I think the president said, I think it could be domestic terrorism. He didn't say it would certainly be.
Gotcha.
I imagine that it depends. I mean, the violence that we're hearing about is, Molotov cocktails, arson.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's coordinated, and there's a conspiracy. I mean, depends on the facts.
Got you. Jesse, I was watching the protesters today at Trump Tower, and I never get over this feeling of I've never in my life had time to do that.
Yeah, who the heck can do this?
I've worked since high school. I would have to achieve. I have hobbies. I have a life. I can't even conceive of going and doing something like
I'm
this.
starting to realize these people might not have jobs, dude. And I'm starting to realize they might be getting paid to protest. And Will Kane showed Open Society, Soros is funding it. And that's fine. I love it. The more you guys make fools of yourselves, the better it is for moi. A couple years ago, Musk was saving the planet. He was going to other planets. And he was in love with the Democrats. They were both in love. And then they had this horrible breakup. But Musk says he didn't change, they changed. He was always about free enterprise and free speech. They went full wacko. They tried to transition one of his kids.
Yeah.
And then
they
he buys
successfully
Twitter
did.
and realized that they were censoring everybody.
One of his kids, they got in his head. They told him bad things. And one of his kids is transgender. That kid doesn't want to have anything to do with Elon now. Doesn't want to have anything to do with his father now, because they literally brainwashed him to think that his father is evil. That's how messed up it is, guys. That's why Elon went full blown, said, you know what? I'm not siding with them anymore, because that's just evil.
And then he sees Trump get shot. It kind of gives him a political awakening, and he goes all in. And Trump gets elected. He comes in, he wants to make the government more efficient at great expense to himself and his company, and finds out the Democrats are stealing from the government. So he caught him censoring you, and then he caught him stealing from you, and he's humiliated them. This is not your average breakup. This is like you hit him where it hurts. And now the Democrats don't have the emotional intelligence to kind of reconcile this breakup, so they just oppose everything in a blind rage. It makes no sense. Donald Trump and Elon Musk have made them support shutdowns. They're against peace. They're against green cars. They're against women. It's weird, and we're watching it unfold. Now they're supporting an anti-Semite. This is a guy, he's not even American. He comes here, he hates Jews. He blows up Colombia, cost them $400 million, and they're out there like this guy's Gandhi. And so have at it, left. Keep going.
Greg, it kind of reminded me of all the protests you would see at the World Trade Organization, and all the sort of anarchists, anti-capitalism.
There might be some stuff behind that, though. But first, we got to stop referring to this guy as a student.
Yeah,
he's
a man.
31. I mean, if Charles Manson took a night course, would we refer to him as a student? No, he was a murderer. This guy is an agent, let's be honest. Remember, you can look at what USAID did in other countries, fomenting color revolutions. What's he doing here? Issues. It's not about Doge. None of these people are upset about Doge. They don't even pay attention. Like you said, these are people who aren't really part of an everyday normal society. You know what I always do when I check out these protests? I look for one thing: attractive people. None there. None. Mostly young, female, and homely. There were a few guys in there, speckled into the stereotypical goateed cream puff, but they might have been women too. And they're talking about Nazis. Well, who are the Nazis by their definition? Because once they claim you're a Nazi, they will do whatever they want to you. Then some said that they were at the protests were Jews, but will the media check that? I doubt it. And they will not check. The media will also not check who paid for those signs, who paid for those T-shirts, and as you said, who paid for the protesters. This protest, all these protesters are as organic as a Twinkie. This is not real. This is a manufactured activity to create the delusion of a movement. I don't think Democrats should be heartened by this, to be seen as the party of the tantrum. All this explosion of negative energy is compared to the other side, which is this consistent optimism and positivity. Things are happening. We just had a temporary truce between Russia and Ukraine. We've watched illegal immigration slow to a trickle. The government is getting a much needed audit on behalf of the taxpayers, not on behalf of the politicians. And it's driven by the most energetic, optimistic leader you've probably seen in a generation, even more. And what do you got? Mercenaries of misery who just go out there and disrupt because they have all this freaking free time. Makes you wonder that, you know, it's funny. Why are leftists so politically chaotic, intimidating, and unhinged? You can mention January 6th, but the exception proves the rule. That was one moment. You know, the left has had 50 plus years of political unrest. And it goes back, and I think it answers your question. There's an aimlessness when you become a leftist. And the aimlessness is aided and abetted by a political narcissism, where you're told yourself matters, which is why they elevate trans activism and Hamas terrorists. Then you get to the whole Musk thing. The contradiction and the inconsistencies in their support for him are based primarily on the fact of aimlessness. They wake up every morning without a plan. They could love you one minute and hate you the next, because underneath it all, they have no real purpose in life. And it's miserable. So the lifestyle of the activists you see is unkempt, broke, emotional, just unhappy.
Guys, and again, we're seeing it. It like when you see that type of behavior, a normal person says, no, a normal person is going to working, trying to provide for their family, trying to make sure that they're doing well, making a good living, things like that. And what we're seeing is just craziness. Normal people do not go in and do that type of stuff. There is one thing to protest. There's another thing where there was people that were throwing Molotov cocktails at the Tesla dealerships. That's who Trump was calling terrorists, like domestic terrorists. He said the people that are burning down superchargers and vandalizing and painting swastikas on the Tesla vehicles, that's what he was calling as domestic terrorists. He's not talking about just regular people protesting. Like, this is, again, where the left will always twist things for their benefit. Want to say thank you so much, Michelle Lindsay, for the super chat. Said enough is enough. It's time to FAFO to be implemented immediately. 100%, Michelle. Thank you so much, Mr. Norby, for the super chat. He said it's all the swampiness of the Democrats using the American people's money for the last 30 years now. They're that corrupt as heck, and more than ever as it's now coming to light nowadays. 100%. Guys, y'all show Mr. Norby and Michelle some love in the chat. They're only getting, and they're going to get worse. That's the point, guys, that I'll say this. You can literally pinpoint this. It's going to get worse because the deeper that we go, the more that we reveal, the more that everything for the Democratic Party is going to be exposed. And I promise you this, in the next two elections for president, there's going to be a new party that's going to come out of it, because everybody's going to see that for the past 50 years, the Democratic Party has been screwing over the American people. Just like the Republican rhinos have been doing it as well. That's why we got MAGA. But I want to show you this, guys, because this is big. Chuck Schumer will vote to keep the government open. For Donald Trump, he said a shutdown would be a gift. And what I love is you got to always read between the lines. What is actually happening? What are they afraid of? What is the actual, where are they trying to target next? Or where are they trying to put the focus at? Check this out.
You have just heard an absolutely stunning surrender by Chuck Schumer on the Senate floor in a very weak and sad speech. I mean, this means that the Democrats that had, for Schumer's shutdown, had all the possibilities of shutting down President Trump's government, have really just acquiesced to the Republican position. It's absolutely stunning. And 24 hours ago, all they were doing is smack talk after smack talk after smack talk. They're going to do this, they're going to do that. Ladies and gentlemen, President Trump's government is not going to shut down tomorrow night at midnight. Chuck Schumer has collapsed. And I don't know if Mark Kelly came out earlier and said he was a no. If Murphy's a yes in Connecticut, I think that ends his 28 campaign. I don't see how anybody on the Democratic side devotes to side with the Republicans, because I know Fetterman doesn't have any presidential ambitions. how they can justify a national campaign. Let me repeat this. The Democratic Senate has just surrendered to President Trump. The government will remain open. Tomorrow at midnight, the temporary CR has passed. Remember, we hate the CR. It's the Biden budget is $2 trillion. None of the Doge numbers in there. But this audience agreed, right? We had the backs of the Congressman, the House Freedom Caucus, all the members hung together, Berkshire, because as bad as it is, it was more important. President Trump says, I need this government to stay open. We have much more to do on Doge, but he says, I've also got all these other things I'm working on, war and peace and with Putin and all of it. He made a request. He came out on Truth Social many times, also talked to people around him, and we would echo that and tell you we were not a fan of this. In fact, we hate it, but for the good of the team and what President Trump felt he needed at the time, everybody would pitch in, and only Tom Massey. And I don't hold against Tom Massey. Tom Massey, I think, made a very principled. Look, I've got problems with Massey on other issues, but here I thought he laid it out.
Guys, if you appreciate this, guys, if you do me a favor and hit that thumbs up like button, thank you so much, guys. I'm 100% happy this is happening because we can continue the Trump agenda moving forward as fast as possible.
We had the votes, but I don't think anybody on the Democratic side, because in a situation you're in, like you just had this shattering defeat, like we had it in 2021, the early months of the Steele. After they stole it, remember, a third of MAGA kind of floated away because they were so crushed. They came back, particularly when President Trump went to Orlando and spoke at CPAC 47 days after he returned to Mar-a-Lago. But at that time, you remember how you have to kind of rally. It's what you see Rachel Maddow trying to do every night with progressives. And then they have this where the 8 Democrats essentially sided with the Republicans and President Trump to keep his government open. There's all types of intellectual arguments and quite smart arguments, particularly from capital markets and from the lords of easy money on Wall Street, the hedge fund managers and the investment bankers that know Schumer very well. There's all types of very rational arguments you can make that this is a smart position and you have to do it. But politics is not always rational. And in a situation like this, they're groping. They're trying to grope their way through this and figure out kind of what works and what gets traction. And the Democratic Senate has just shattered that, I think. We've got a lot more to get to. We're going to get back to this, but there's not going to be a government shutdown tomorrow night. President Trump's government will continue on unabated. This will take us through the end of the fiscal year of September 30th. At the same time, now simultaneous, 2 things are going to happen. Rust vote, and Rust vote got name checked there by Schumer from the floor. Remember, the Doge cuts that have been done that they can identify. Rust vote has said they're going to prepare packages for impoundment, and that should come relatively quickly, maybe in the next month or so that they will bundle those cuts, and we will actually get Chris Murphy is a no, so he did not vote for it. Voting no, unbelievable. Chris Murphy, I got to find out who these guys are. I'm sure Blumenthal is one. It's going to be quite extraordinary.
And guys, I'm telling you this, like this next thing that you're about to see, I love it that Kevin O'Leary, guys, who has not been a Republican proponent, he's been more of a Democratic liberal for most of his life, but look how he literally comes to the center. You have Tulsi Gabbard, who is now a Republican. You have Robert RFK Jr., who is now, not saying he's a Republican, but he's on Trump's side. Like, this blows my mind that how many times you can have common sense be spoken to people and they can say things, and yet they still don't get it. I want to say thank you so much, Andy, for the super chat. Said climate group controlled by B. Gates. Hit by layoffs, the gravy train ended. He got billions of free USA taxpayer dollars. It's about dang time. Let's go. Because again, too, without the USAID money, now their slush funds are ending. Thank you so much, Marshall Emmerich, for the super chat. Let's go. Doing the happy dance. I love it. Y'all show Marshall and Andy some love in the chat. Listen to this, guys. It's so simple. It's so subtle, but it's so perfect over what this person is saying on CNN, and Kevin O'Leary just lays the mic drop with just a couple of words.
was the President of the United States of America. Right. And it is not great to shrug your shoulders while the President of the United States uses every asset he has and every force he has to penalize people. Do you understand the level of pain?
Are you talking about Biden?
I'm talking about Donald J.
No, I was confused.
The right to counsel.
You hear him? All he said was, are you talking about Biden? Who, the same person who used every weaponization possible against Trump to try to keep him out of office, to keep him from campaigning, to keep him from being able to actually run for president? It is about dang time that we have people being called out on both sides. It's about dang time that people are getting fired. The Trump administration removes top IRS attorney who prevented Doge from gaining access. It is about dang time for all of this, but it is enough is enough. We're at the point now where we have to have accountability. We have to be able to call things out. This, what you're about to see next, is one of the biggest things that probably, guys, is going to literally, it's going to rock the United States, but it's also, because I got some data to show you. Because I want to bring the receipts. It's not so much that we come on here and we show you a lot of great things. You get to see these videos in this context, but I want to show you where it makes so much sense, where the focus of where the left-wing media agenda, whoever pays them, tries to put your focus on. But whenever we reveal what's actually going on, then it's like, oh, dang. Listen to this.
Hi, I'm Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I'm the Secretary for the Department of Health and Human Services. In the final months of the election, President Trump repeatedly called for removing toxins from our food supply. He added his voice to the millions of Maha moms who were touting the Make America Healthy Again agenda. The first step is radical transparency because right now, not even the U.S. government knows what's in our food. In 1958, the government created a designation called Generally Recognized as Safe, or GRAS, so that we can make common ingredients like salt and baking soda exempt from testing. But today, it isn't just salt and baking soda. Food companies and cooperative regulators have enlarged the GRAS exemption so that these companies can decide for themselves whether a substance is generally recognized as safe. No FDA approval is needed. European nations, on the other hand, require that a chemical be proven safe before it becomes a food ingredient.
Wow.
In our country, the GRAS standard means that every chemical is presumed safe until proven dangerous, and that proof might not happen until millions of Americans are sick with chronic disease. This mass experiment on the American population with GRAS has, in short, been a catastrophe. We now have around 10,000 chemicals in our food.
10,000?
Europe has only 400.
400?
For example, titanium dioxide, potentially linked to DNA damage and cancer, is banned in the EU, but it's in our children's food. Potassium bromate, a suspected carcinogen, banned in Europe and Japan. And you guessed it, it's in our children's bread.
Dang.
Food dyes such as red dye 40 and yellow 5 and 6 come with warning labels in Europe. They're linked to behavioral issues in children, but in the U.S., they're generally recognized as safe. I can't really blame the food companies. They're just doing what we've allowed them to get away with.
I can blame them.
In a system that's taken on a life of its own. We all agree now that it's time to change the system, and that's exactly what we're going to do.
Thank you,
I am
Jesus.
today directing the FDA commissioner to start the process of changing the rules to eliminate the self-affirming GRAS pathway for new ingredients. I'm also directing the FDA and NIH to ramp up post-market assessments of GRAS chemicals currently in our food so that we can rapidly identify the compounds that are making Americans so sick.
Yes.
And so that American consumers and regulators can make informed decisions. This issue isn't going away. Moms aren't going to return to wanting chemicals in our food that are banned in other developed countries. Even industry knows that we have to change. So I promise you, I'm going to work with all parties, the companies, the moms, the scientists, the consumer advocates, to make American food the healthiest in the world the way that it was when I was a child.
Guys, you cannot tell me. This is why they didn't want him to be in the position. Because he knew They knew that he would expose them. Alicia Schoberg, thank you so much for the super chat. Are the Democrats bipolar? I would say most of them. And thank you so much, Lay Lewis, for the super chat. Said these Dems just don't want this country to flourish because of their own greed. It's a shame. It's a dang shame. Thank you so much, Lay and Alicia. Y'all show them some love in the chat. Guys, look at this statistics. This is the receipts. Deaths in America from 1999 to 2025. Suicide, 1.1 million. Overdose, 1.5. Heart attack, 17,800,000. Measles, 4. But what have you been hearing throughout the news? Measles outbreak, measles outbreak. When's the last time you heard about the heart attacks? Our United States is unhealthy. We're not doing good as a society when what is it? I mean, you can quote me on this. I'm going to just go ahead and look this up. Of the statistic of how many, what percentage of children are obese in 2024? Like what percentage of them? Just thinking about that because again, it's the next generation. But we have so much bad chemicals in our food. We have so much that is unnecessary. Think about it. He said 10,000 ingredients in our food. When it comes to the European Union, 400. Like, wow. Like, what? That's not even a fair comparison. That's not even the same ball game. Look at this. Cite a 2024 U.S. adult obesity rate of 42.7%. And that's from the New York Times. Now, how much do we believe them? There's some other ones that say CDC's National Health and Nutrition, 40% of adults in the United States are obese. 40%, guys. But it's not just about, it's about our food. It's about what we're eating. It's about how it's affecting our bodies. Guys, I don't know about y'all guys, but I've been on the carnivore diet for the past almost 3 weeks. I've dropped probably 7 or 8 pounds in 3 weeks. All I've been eating is just burger, like ground beef, steak, things like that. With just, Angus dogs. And I have felt the best I've ever felt. My head is clearer than it's ever been. And it's just crazy how when you fix your diet, how much it affects everything. And imagine with 50 years ago, it was like 1 in like some 30,000 kids had autism. And now it's like 1 in 36 kids has autism. There's something wrong with our food. There's something wrong with something, maybe giving the vaccines. I'm not saying vaccines are bad, but I'm saying maybe we shouldn't give them when the kid is just born. And maybe we should wait a little bit. All this stuff is being looked at, and there's a lot of corruption being exposed. And it's about dang time too. Listen to this.
All right, gas prices are down. It looks like inflation is easing a little bit. Sure. But you cannot turn on the television without hearing a business executive speak about the tariffs, the kind of whiplash on the tariffs and some of the difficulty they're having in making long-term investments and projections because of this uncertainty. Sure. What can you do to reassure them that this is all going to settle out?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think the president's been very clear. He wants to impose tariffs on foreign importers because he wants to bring investment and jobs back to the United States of America. So what I'd say to those business leaders is I think the president has actually been quite clear about what he wants to accomplish. Build more in the United States of America, invest more in the United States of America, raise wages for workers in the United States of America, and you don't have to pay these tariffs at all. There is, as the president has said, a recognition that we have to accept, which is that, look, Joe Biden left this economy in a disaster. He ran the highest peacetime deficits we've ever had in this country. He left us with a significant debt crisis. And the president has come in and said, look, we have to accomplish a lot of things simultaneously. We have to bring down inflation, which I think we're making some good progress on. We have to actually ensure critical government services like Social Security and the military function for the American people. And we also have to force businesses to invest more, not overseas, not in Chinese workers, but in American workers. And I think we're doing all of those things. Rome wasn't built in a day, of course. This is not going to happen overnight. But I think that both businesses and workers are ultimately going to benefit from President Trump's policies.
But can you rule out the possibility, as Reagan faced in his first term in office, coming off a terrible economic calamity for the country, can you rule out a recession, even a temporary one?
Well, look, I think you never can predict the future, but I think the economy, the fundamentals of the economy are actually quite strong right now. Yes. And we'll see how this unfolds, Laura, but I think that by inducing more businesses to invest in American workers, by reshoring some of those critical supply chains, we are going to make this economy stronger over the long haul.
I don't know about y'all guys, but I really don't like it that they're asking about this recession. They're putting that out there. Guys, the economy is fine. Prices on eggs are going down. Housing prices are going down. Gas is going down. Just because we're having essentially a tariff war doesn't mean we're going to be put into a recession. If you appreciate this, guys, if you don't mind hitting that thumbs up like button, thank you so much for your support.
And that is the president's ultimate goal. We have to remember, Laura, people forget 5 years ago, of course, we had the COVID crisis. And aside from the public health element of it, what it should have taught us, Laura, is we can't rely on communist China to make all the critical stuff. You had hospitals that didn't have medical supplies. You had businesses, manufacturing businesses that couldn't get core raw materials because China was shut down. What the president is doing is changing 40 years of a failed bipartisan consensus in Washington, D.C. that has sold out American workers and destroyed the underlying economic strength of the United States of America. We're going to rebuild it. It's going to take a little time, but we are going to do it.
Does that include medical device manufacturing, which most of it really went to Canada? So all these great American companies from Minnesota and Midwest shot up there to Canada, lower prices, the companies like it, but American workers lost out. So how long would this transition period be to bring those types of companies, if that's the ultimate goal, back here?
Well, look, I think it's going to take time, right? Some of the stuff, you're already seeing factories that are adding shifts for American workers. That happens immediately. Some factories, it takes 18 months or 2 years to build a new facility. So it really depends industry by industry. But the basic thrust of President Trump's economic policies is if you invest in the United States of America, you're going to be rewarded with lower taxes, lower regulations, lower energy costs. If you want to build a factory in China, that's your right, but you're going to pay
or Canada,
to bring that stuff
or
back
Spain,
to the United States.
or Italy.
Yeah, and the president made this point actually in the visit with the Prime Minister of Ireland yesterday, that the European Union has in some ways been the worst on American workers and American industries of anybody. They're imposing ridiculous tariffs. They say that they're our most important ally. And of course, we care about European security, Laura, but they don't treat us like an ally when it comes to economics. They actually hammer American consumers and American workers in the process. The president, you know, the thing that underlies all this, Laura, is of course a defense of the American worker, but a recognition that we're not going to take unfairness anymore. Nope. If Europeans do something to us, we're actually going to fight back economically. For the first time in 40 years, we have a president who's standing up for America.
Yeah, I mean, your hometown, Ohio, destroyed. Akron, all these wonderful American cities, totally just kicked to the dirt for decades. Exactly. And all those people were told, learn to code, do other things. Yeah. And now it's going to be a difficult period. How long do you think that transition period will be?
Well, again, Laura, I think it really depends on what kind of industry, what kind of factory that we're talking about. I mean, you're already seeing instantly some factories, especially in the automobile sector, who are announcing they were going to move to Mexico under Joe Biden. Now they're actually building capacity here in the United States. Some factories that are idle part of the time, they're turning on additional shifts. So I think sometimes it's going to take a while. Sometimes it's going to happen immediately. It really is a case-by-case thing. But the underlying trend is invest in America and you're going to do well as a business.
But the whiskey manufacturers, come on, they're screaming today because it looks like the president might slap some retaliatory tariffs on Europe. Europe came back to us and said, oh, no, we're going to hit your whiskey. Trump then says, we're going to up you. It's like a game of chicken here, trade chicken. 200% on champagnes and wines to France. Now, that will destroy the French winemaking business, but they've been really tough on our winemaking industry for years.
Well, that's exactly the point. Look, Europe doesn't have the cards here. As President Trump likes to say, when you have actually penalized American companies and American workers, as the EU has for years, we're actually fighting back for the first time. But Laura, we have a $1 trillion trade deficit. We absorb
largest ever
terrible economic policies from all over the world, and the world expects American consumers
just to foot
the bill for their workers and their businesses, and Donald Trump is flipping that on its head. We are not going to do this anymore. We cannot run an economy where Americans borrow, go into debt to buy things that other people make for us. We're going to make it in America. We have to.
There is so much.
Guys, do you see that? Like, I don't know if you catch these things, but we're literally in a $1 trillion deficit, and this is every year to other countries where we're basically giving them $1 trillion to subsidize bringing their products into the United States. This is what Trump is talking about. That's why he's so adamant about it. If we, guys, $1 trillion a year, you talk about the Doge savings, you talk about the deficits. If we get to a balanced budget, we cut off, even if we cut the trade deficit in half to $500 billion, and then we get to a balanced budget, the amount of growth that America could experience? Because remember, Trump said it, once we get to a balanced budget, everybody making under $150,000 a year doesn't pay any federal income taxes. That's 92% of all people that pay taxes in the United States. Andy, thank you so much for the super chat. Let's go. He says Schumer is afraid that Trump figures out that all his people are unnecessary and they may get fired. I hope they do. Y'all show Andy some love in the chat, guys. Thank you so much. Y'all are killing it tonight with the super chats. USAID, guys, right here. Elon Musk reposted this. USAID was funding a $397,000 grant in San Francisco Bay to educate queer, trans, and BIPOC urban farmers and consumers about food justice and values-aligned markets. That grant has been canceled. Thank you. Thank you, Doge. Because I didn't even know there was food justice. But I love it how they specifically targeted queer, trans, and BIPOC people. Like, again, it's always to a certain side. It's always one-sided. Have we literally found where there has been a conservative or Republican that it was, or even America First thing that was just utterly stupid? No, it's been all these LGBTQ, all these Democratic slush fund monies, whatever you want to call it, that has been all corrupt, guys. It's just so messed up. Check this out.
Trump Tower's been taken over. A 100 protesters arrested this morning after breaking into Trump Tower, chanting, "Free Mahmoud." Who's Mahmoud? He's a Syrian agitator who loves Hamas and hates Jews and who made so much mayhem at Columbia last year, he cost the school millions of dollars. Trump's trying to deport him. And Democrats are siding with the anti-Semitic foreigner who broke the law. Democrats want to deport Elon, but keep Mahmoud. They're standing for Mahmoud, but not for a black kid with brain cancer who wants to be a cop.
Wow.
They used to stand for electric cars, but then Elon caught them censoring conservatives and stealing from the government, so they're attacking Teslas with pickaxes.
Armed with a pickaxe and sledgehammer in Seattle's Soto neighborhood, these two fellas went to town on this Tesla. The car was left in shambles with shattered windows, massive punctures, and tons of anti-Elon Musk graffiti.
We don't like what Elon Musk is doing.
This man would only give me his first name.
Greg, sorry.
But says he actually owns the white Model S.
I bought it just to destroy it.
A man sledgehammered his own Tesla to get back at Elon after he paid for it.
That's smart.
If there's one thing liberals are good at, it's destruction. They can't build a reservoir, a high-speed rail, or a charging station, but they can tear down a statue, a border, and a Tesla. It's one thing for the kid in the back of the car to keep saying, "Daddy, are we there yet? Are we there yet?" But it's another for the kid to slash his own tires. Remember the Heinz commercial?
I'm passing the Heinz? Sure.
When you've got something this rich,
doesn't agree to a ceasefire, Russia's going to suffer devastating consequences. And this morning, Putin says he's going to agree to a 30-day ceasefire. Isn't that what liberals have been wearing the Ukraine flag pins for? To stop the Russian invasion?
Wow.
But since Trump's brokering the peace, Democrats are anti-peace. and no one gave him any credit. Peacenik Liz Warren's clapping her hands like this to keep funding a war that never ends. Now, if Trump wins the Nobel Peace Prize, are Democrats going to even be able to say congrats? Gas prices just hit 3-year lows. Mortgage rates are falling. Inflation's cooling. And border crossings, they basically stopped. These are all things Democrats argued a president had no control over. Then how'd all these things happen when we got a new president? Democrats were for Doge for decades. But now that Trump's the one doing the doging, they're standing up for waste, fraud, and abuse.
Until today, USDA was funding a $397,000 grant in the San Francisco Bay Area to educate queer, trans, and BIPOC urban farmers and consumers about food justice.
So if you're a straight urban farmer, you don't get money. Only a queer urban farmer gets money. $400,000 for a pack of seeds, some gardening gloves, and a watering can. You know how much mulch you can buy for $400,000? They're stealing the money. If we can Doge queer urban garden grants, we could probably balance the budget.
When the president balances the budget, his first move is going to be, he has suggested that he would like to waive taxes for people under $150,000. That's aspirational, that when we balance the budget. And let me tell you, he's got a plan to balance this budget.
Trump wants to Doge taxes for the working class, and Democrats are breaking into Trump Tower, screaming to free a radical Muslim. Imagine how great this country would be if we could all work together, and Democrats didn't just oppose to oppose. CNBC's mad about the market and blames Trump's tariffs. But there's a method to the madness.
Yesterday, General Motors was in. They want to invest $60 billion. The people from Facebook were in yesterday. They're going to invest $60 billion by the end of the year. Apple, as you know, a few days ago announced $500 billion investment. They're going to build their plants in the United States, which, as you know, almost all of their plants are in China. Now they're building in the United States.
This trade war, which is in its second week, is already bringing in money, jobs, and manufacturing. Politicians lost 100,000 manufacturing plants over 40 years and 5 million jobs. It could take longer than 2 weeks to fix it. The S&P's off 10% now, and the media acts like it's Black Friday. The S&P had a stretch where it fell off 10% just last year, and another 10% dip the year before. It happens. It's going to take a minute to bring manufacturing back. It's the only thing both parties agree on. The media never panics when we lost the muscle of American industry. As long as equities were up, the media was happy. Who cares about American jobs and wages? They threw parties for globalization. All the brilliant minds said the earth was flat and it was the end of history. Not so fast.
We've been ripped off for years, and we're not going to be ripped off anymore. No, I'm not going to bend at all. Aluminum or steel or cars, we're not going to bend. We've been ripped off as a country for many, many years. We've been subjected to costs that we shouldn't be subjected to.
Today, we started a booze war. The Europeans didn't like our steel tariff, so they put a 50% tariff on whiskey. 47 doesn't drink, so we just put a 200% tariff on all European wines and champagne, which will probably break the French, and they'll surrender like usual. Looks like for now, Jesse Waters won't be buying any more Bordeaux, so if anybody knows any great California cabs, let me know. Trump's fighting the trade war that Democrats promised to fight for decades, but never did.
Never did.
I know
anyway.
you don't like Trump's style.
No.
You haven't liked it for 12 years. I spent, an hour on my way up here looking at all these old articles coming out of liberal outlets over the past 10, 15, 20 years, talking about the disaster free trade has had on middle-class America, how it's destroyed manufacturing in this country, how once upon a time the Rust Belt was thriving, now it's in decay. You can't blame that on Donald Trump for wanting to focus and put a microscope and saying, wait a minute here, we have left a significant percent of our fellow Americans behind. Let's fix that.
They all yell at him. The whole world treats America like a duty-free shop, but they won't even let a single American company through their door. What's the Democrat strategy to get other countries to lower their tariffs? What's the Democrat strategy to bring manufacturing jobs home?
Nothing.
The only Democrat strategy is to print and spend and tax until we go bankrupt.
Biden literally paid another country $100 billion of our taxpayer dollars to try and get them to come and build a factory here. Just tell me, these Democrats, all these just corrupt people, literally will do anything in the world to line their pockets, screw the American people off, and now that Trump is doing something about it, they're eating their words because Trump has a plan. Countries are caving and America is moving forward. And everybody's going to start looking at the United States as don't mess with them. Trump is not asking for anything crazy, guys. He's asking for the same tariffs. If you tariff me 10%, I'm going to tariff you 10%. What's so bad about that? This is what blows my mind. And we get all these crazy Democrats saying that Trump is just turning the whole world upside down. No, he's trying to make it fair for the first time.
It's not like the markets aren't going to go back up. Trump's first term market performance was better than Biden's. Trump ran on trade. Voters elected him. And now he just got started.
Rome wasn't built in a day, of course. This is not going to happen overnight. I think it's going to take time, right? Some of the stuff, you're already seeing factories that are adding shifts for American workers. That happens immediately. Some factories, it takes 18 months or 2 years to build a new facility. So it really depends industry by industry. But the basic thrust of President Trump's economic policies is if you invest in the United States of America, you're going to be rewarded with lower taxes, lower regulations, lower energy costs. If you want to build a factory in China, that's your right, but you're going to pay.
Trump's done everything else so quickly, we just expect a lot and really fast. That's all. But it took 40 years to lose these jobs. Trump's not going to get them back overnight. He won trade wars against China, Canada, Mexico, South Korea in his first term, and we had no inflation, high wages, and a healthy stock market. Biden broke the bank, the border, took years to reopen schools and the economy, let companies move offshore, and never even called Putin once to end the war. It's going to take a second to flush Bidenomics out of the system. Trump's not creating a recession. He's preventing a Great Depression.
Yes.
We were always going to have a transition from this incredible, unsustainable level of government spending that we had. I think last week I called it a detox. The easy thing for us to have done would have been to come in and just keep this massive spending level going. And it's unsustainable, but could we have kept it going for a year, 2 years, maybe even 4? Maybe, but you're risking a financial calamity.
The media sees this trade war as undisciplined and haphazard because they don't listen to what the White House says. But I do. Tax regulation and spending cuts, a secure border, and fair trade will create an economic boom that's going to grow jobs, wages, and profits and make your portfolio as fat as Pelosi's. America's expanding. You can call this market growing pains. We're also expanding geographically.
Canada only works as a state. We don't need anything they have. As a state, it would be one of the great states anyway. This would be the most incredible country visually. If you look at a map, they drew an artificial line right through it between Canada and the U.S., just a straight artificial line. Somebody did it a long time ago, many, many decades ago, and makes no sense. It's so perfect as a great and cherished state.
Yes.
Keeping "O Canada," the national anthem. I love it. I think it's great. Keep it. But it'll be for the state, one of our greatest states. Maybe our greatest.
Trump's White House is even asking the Pentagon to develop military options for the Panama Canal. The Panamanian military can either work with us or work for us, if you know what I mean. And Greenland's basically inevitable.
Greenland. What is your vision for the potential annexation of Greenland and getting them potentially to
Well, I think it'll happen, and I'm just thinking, I didn't give it much thought before, but I'm sitting with a man that could be very instrumental. You know, Mark, we need that for international security.
Look at this map right here. Doesn't that make sense? See Greenland, see Russia, see Alaska and Canada. This great game is going to move from the Mideast to the Arctic. And Trump knows precious real estate when he sees it.
Oh, yeah.
Bernie Sanders says it's the scariest time he's ever seen since he's been alive. But it's shaping up to be the most exciting.
America's going to become more lethal, more economically strong, and we're participating in that, and we're thrilled. The part I love is that we're winning. The part I love almost more is that we're getting to do our usual humiliate the critics of Palantir game. and it makes my life a lot of fun. America is the greatest experiment, the greatest country that has existed, and we must support it.
Guys, we are seeing big things happening. Not only is Trump moving us in the right direction, I want to show you this, guys, because this is huge. When you look at what Trump is doing in forcing everybody to invest into us and just basically telling them, hey, if you don't invest into us, we're just going to tariff you. But if you do invest in the United States, guess what? You pay lower taxes. The way Biden did it was, y'all remember the CHIPS Act? We gave $52 billion to other countries to another company outside of taxpayer dollars to come and build in the United States. It is literally the opposite. Like, this is what you talk about when you have a true businessman and then you have a career politician who's being run by White House staffers and lobbyists. That is the difference. Trump makes them use their own money to come in and build, and then the Democrats and Biden administration use taxpayer money to have them come and build. That's why we're so much better off. That's why it's going to be okay. Teresa Weber, thank you so much for the super chat. Let's go. Said a doctor compared U.S. MAP snack machines put in schools to a map few years later of add meds equals matched. Wow, that is crazy. And Andy, thank you so much for the super chat. Said, sadly, this reminds me of the decline and fall of the Roman Empire, which, guys, remember, most modern civilizations never last more than 250 years. We're at that mark, but I think if Trump and Elon and all of them can stay for at least the next 3 terms in charge, talking about MAGA, we will be okay. And again, thank you so much, Teresa Weber, for the super chat. Guys, y'all are so amazing. He said, protesters put their homes where their mouth is. If cause crime equals deport them all with no return. Yes, especially if they're illegal. Y'all show Teresa and Andy some love in the chat. Things are changing. I'm glad to be reporting on all this wonderful news. But what I'm really excited about next, guys, is to show that when Trump, as Trump's agenda gets fulfilled, they will see most people, not everybody, because you still got some people that, guys, it doesn't matter what you tell them. You, like Trump said, I could tell you I solved cancer and you'd still hate me. That there's going to be the majority of people that see that Trump's common sense business principle plans actually move the United States in the right direction. We will win the midterms. We will have another red wave, and then we'll win 2028 and continue putting America First agenda on the table and it getting fulfilled, and we will be the greatest country we could ever be. That's what we're looking forward to, guys. I am so excited about where things are going. I want to say thank you to everybody who's watching, to all of our subscribers. If you're not subscribed, what are you doing? We're going to give you the truth every day, guys, so hit that subscribe button. If you don't mind hitting that thumbs up like button, we really appreciate your support. Thank you to all of our members of the channel. Remember, members get 15% off. We're selling our premium t-shirts, limited quantity, limited edition. Guys, we're going to donate a portion of that money to charity, just like we do everything else. So grab you a t-shirt, guys. Want to thank everybody, especially Mr. Norby. He's ordered like 20 of them. Y'all show Mr. Norby some love in the chat. And want to give some love to those giving a super chat tonight. Teresa Weber, Celestino Marina, Mary Busby, Michelle Lindsay, Mr. Norby, Andy, Marshall Emmerich, Alicia Scoberg, Leigh Lewis, Teresa Weber. Guys, y'all have been amazing. Y'all are the best, guys. I get so excited to serve you every day with the top news, and we couldn't do it without you. We love you. See you in the next one, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.